Hi there, it's Asia. Over the last couple of years, I've taken my IELTS exam 3 times, and each speaking test was quite different. So, in this video, I'd love to share my experience with you so you know what to expect in part 3 of your exam and what you can do to improve your performance. Okay, let's get started. So I took the IELTS exam 3 times in recent years, and all 3 speaking tests were quite different. And I think a lot depends on the personality of the examiner. So let me tell you how it was for me. So the first examiner, I would say he was a challenger. He interrupted me the most. And in part 3, he challenged me to prove my opinion by asking questions such as, is it always so? Or why do you think so? By the way, the examiner may interrupt you during your test and it doesn't affect your performance. It doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. And it may happen for various reasons. Maybe they want to see if they can push you and you will be able to answer the next question quickly because you're performing really well. Or maybe they just need to move on to the next question because you're running out of time. So don't worry about that, just answer the next question. So that was my first examiner. The second examiner didn't interrupt me at all. She was very to the point. She asked me a question, then she waited for me to finish it. But then sometimes I could see that she wants to say something, and then I would just stop at the end of the sentence and let her speak. Maybe that's why she didn't have to interrupt me. She didn't give me any emotional feedback, she just listened. So the third examiner, that was an online test IELTS indicator during the last lockdown. So it was a video call. And the examiner was from probably America or Canada, I'm not quite sure. And she was really outgoing. She showed her emotions freely, and she actually participated in part 3 discussion the most. She didn't just ask questions. Sometimes she actually said something and then she asked the question. So it felt much more like a normal discussion, unlike my first and second exams. Just be prepared that your experience may depend on who's asking you the questions. Your job in part 3 is to give long, extended answers. But at the same time, you shouldn't talk for the sake of talking. So what is an extended answer? Let me give you an example. Let's say the question is, can you trust everything you read on the internet? I could say, absolutely not. There is so much misinformation that is being spread both deliberately and unintentionally. The problem with the internet today is that everyone can publish anything. And when you read something, you have to check what the source of the information is and decide how trustworthy that source is. And that's it. I've answered the question. Don't be afraid to answer the question and then stop and let the examiner ask you the next question. In part 3, you will do most of the talking, but it's still a two-way discussion with the examiner. And they don't have predefined lists of questions. They have topics. And they can ask you questions based on what you just said. For example, in part 2, I was asked to tell about a time when I looked into the sky. And then in part 3, the questions were about flying to Mars and living on Mars, aliens and studying astronomy. And of course, flying to Mars is something we hear about on the news because that's what Elon Musk wants to do. And actually, most of the topics in part 3 are discussed on the news, at least in the UK. And I think if you have some time before your exam, start listening to your news in English. BBC World News is available in every country. Start reading your news in English too. And after some time, you will become aware of all the topics that are discussed in the UK, so you won't be surprised to hear a question. And you will also pick up some vocabulary and some arguments to use in your answers. Before we talk about some other things you can do in IELTS Speaking Part 3 to improve your performance, let me tell you about a platform that allows you to practice your English with native speaking teachers. This is Cambly, the sponsor of today's video and a great place to prepare for your IELTS speaking exam. On this platform, you can choose a teacher you like or book lessons with different teachers to get used to a variety of accents. You can suggest a topic for your lesson or take IELTS speaking lessons or even a mock speaking test. Lessons start from just 15 minutes a day, twice a week, and you can take them at any time that suits you. At the moment, you can take one 10-minute class for free. And if you like it, subscribe using the link in the description to get an extra discount. You'll save the most if you take a 12-month plan. And if you change your mind, you can cancel it and get a refund. I encourage you to take the free lesson while it's available. All the links are in the video description box below. And now, let's continue. A common problem in IELTS Speaking Part 3 is if you don't know what to say, and then you find it difficult to answer the question. But remember that in IELTS Speaking, you're not required to know things. It's not a test of your knowledge. It's a test of your English skills and your ability to communicate in this language. So if you don't know an answer, explain that. This exam is not about facts, it's about your opinions, whether they are right or wrong, and whether the examiner agrees or disagrees with you. For example, the question is, do you think that self-driving cars will replace cars with drivers in the future? And I could say, well, I've heard that self-driving cars are being tested in California and that they were involved in a number of accidents. So I'm under the impression that these cars are not very safe, that the technology is not there yet, and I think we're gonna continue to drive our cars for a very long time. And some people may disagree with this opinion and say that's not true. All cars are going to be self-driving cars quite soon, but it doesn't matter. So if you don't know what to say, at the end of the day, you can always say that you don't know much and explain why. That's already an answer, and then you will move on to the next question. Next, remember that fundamentally IELTS examiners assess your ability to communicate in English. So communicate like a real human being. Use intonations. Try to show your emotions. Use gestures. Use mimic, even though you can't see much in a mask. But still, it all makes an impression that you feel comfortable communicating in English. And don't expect the same back from your examiner. Some are very attentive and very nice, but some look pretty bored because, well, they may be pretty bored. Imagine if they have IELTS speaking exams back to back for hours and hours, but they're still perfectly capable of giving you your score without looking straight into your eyes. My next tip is be very polite. In English, people soften their language and express their thoughts indirectly. So if you say something like, "I don't agree," that's not what I meant. It sounds rude and it makes an impression that you're not proficient communicating in English. So use phrases like this. "I see what you mean, but I don't quite agree that." "I understand what you're saying, but on the other hand." "I'm afraid I don't see it this way." "I'm not quite sure if that's really the best way." Basically, take the point that the examiner gives you, acknowledge it, and then slightly divert your answer in your own direction. Now let's talk about your vocabulary. To get a high score for your lexical results, you need to show that you have a wide vocabulary and that you know less common words. But if you learn some complex words or some rare idioms, they will not look natural and they're not going to increase your score. So what you can do is you can talk about details and then you use some topic-specific vocabulary, which is going to bring you a higher score. For example, in one of my exams, I was asked about a big project I completed, and I talked about my university dissertation. And then I started talking about the topic of this dissertation. Of course, I could do that in English. So I talked about the monetary policy and the interest rates and inflation and so on. So all the concepts which are so familiar to me, and they give you a higher score because it shows that you are really comfortable talking about this specific subject. And this topic-specific vocabulary can help you achieve a higher score for your lexical results while still sounding absolutely natural. IELTS examiners assess your performance based on all three parts of your exam, but I would say that parts 2 and 3 are more important. That's where you talk for longer and the examiner has more time to listen to your English. Part 1 is to warm up. So don't worry if you couldn't provide a perfect answer to a question about your favorite wild animal or if you like your voice. However, if you start well, it gives you confidence and it still makes a positive first impression on the examiner. Luckily, the very first topic in part 1 is quite easy to predict. And you can find these questions, sample answers, and useful vocabulary in the PDF guide here. And don't forget to check out Cambly if you'd like to work on your speaking skills with a native speaking teacher. And thank you for watching me today. Good luck with your preparation and your exam. Bye!